chemistry is something wherein we understand the basic of anything. Let's say, for example, we know that everything is made up of matter. So the first question which comes in our mind is what is matter, right? So do you know what
Yes.
is matter? Can you tell me the
Yes.
definition of matter? What is matter?
Anything that has mass and takes up space.
Yes, that's wonderful, right? Anything that has mass and takes some space. Okay, so that is known as matter, right? So there are two main criteria. One is space, and second thing is mass, right?
Yes.
If these two criteria are fulfilled, then we can say that object or that something has is a matter, nothing but matter, right? So of course, so science, or you can say the human psychology is there that say we try to understand that okay, now matter we know that the space and mass, but what consists of matter? If we try to divide matter, what we'll get? So can you tell me if we divide matter or if we subdivide matter, what we'll get? That how this matter
Atoms.
is made up? Sorry,
Atoms.
atoms. Okay, fine. So what happens when we try to break down matter? We get some smaller particles, like some smaller particles. I'll say some smaller particles, right? And those smaller particles are nothing but those are molecules. Okay, those are molecules. And if we try to further subdivide these molecules, we get another smallest particle, you can say that, right?
Okay.
And that smallest particle is nothing but that is called atom, right? So the
Yes.
first topic which we will be having in our chemistry is molecules, atoms, and then we can jump to the matter, or you can say compound. So matter is something, let's say it may be compound, it may be a mixture, right? Okay,
Yes.
so it can be a pure substance also, but of course it's nothing but it's made up of molecule or it's made up of atoms, right?
Atoms.
Atom is what? It is the most fundamental particle, right? But scientist community doesn't stop here. What they try to further find that what is inside this atom. So can you tell me what is inside atom? Do we know that
Sub
what is inside atom?
subatomic particles like proton, neutron, and electron.
Correct. So we have three subatomic particles. Like firstly, we write like electron, which is again very important, and then we have protons, and thirdly we have neutrons, right?
Neutrons.
And I hope you know that these are the charged particles except neutron. Neutron does not have any charge, so I am writing zero here.
Yes.
Proton is positively charged,
Positive.
right?
And electron
And
is negative.
electrons are negatively charged, right? And these all are known as subatomic particles because they are found inside the atom. Independently, they do not, you will not find them, they don't exist, but they exist in atom. Independently, we won't find them. You cannot say this is the one electron, it exists independently. No. Wherever you find electron, it is inside atom or it will going from one atom to another atom, it will be transferred. Transfer of electrons happens, but independently does not exist. This is what the basic definition of electron. Okay. So we know what is matter, we know what is molecule, we know what are atoms, right? And this is the basics of chemistry, right? So in chemistry, we understand the things, how things are formed. What like if it is something related to humans, something related to matter, anything, because we are also a matter, right? If I talk about myself, anything besides, of course, we are having mass, we are occupying space, of course, we are what? Matter, right? Yes
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Okay. So these fundamental particles which you talking about that's called proton, neutrons, and electrons, so electron, neutrons, and protons, these are like found in the atom. So we can say that elements are made up of very tiny particles. We can call them atoms. And atoms are made up, or atom consists of what? Three things mainly: electron, proton, and neutron. Isn't it?
Neutron. Yes.
We can say that, right? So now the question arises, we have the first question which is called that matter has mass, okay, and space, of course, if something has mass it occupies space, but we subdivided everything. We subdivided matter, we got molecule, we divided molecule, we get atom, and then we also get into the atom and we found that electrons, protons, and neutrons. So the question arises, what is the mass of electron? How small is it, right? And what
Yes.
is the mass of proton? How small it is? And what is the mass of neutron? How small it is, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me? Can you just give me a brief idea that what is the mass of electron? What is the mass of proton? Any idea?
The mass of electron is the charge it holds.
Sorry, charge at holes.
Yes.
Okay, so do you know about holes?
Holds.
Sorry, charge on.
The charge that it holds.
Okay, the charge that it holds. Okay, okay, okay. Fine, fine. So it means you are talking about that mass and charge are same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, mass
No,
and weight.
mass and weight. So these two are the entirely different thing. Although these are the basic entity, but mass has a different thing, charge has a different. Even they have a different units. Just example, let's say if I ask you how do you measure time, you will say time is measured in seconds. If I ask you how do you measure distance, you will say distance is measured in meters. Right? In the same manner, how the mass is measured, it is measured in kilograms. How the charge is measured, it is measured in coulombs. These two are the different entity. Right? So we can say that if we try to compare, I'll give you a comparison because it's a very small, very small. What if I give you a brief idea? Because we cannot see molecule, right? We cannot see molecule from the naked eye, right? How it is possible we can see atoms, and if we cannot see molecules and atoms, and how can we see electrons? So that particular part, that particular particle which we cannot see from naked eyes, how it is possible to calculate the mass of that thing? But still we have calculated, so it's very 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 much small, right? If I give you a comparison, if I give you a comparison of these two things, so let's say, just give it- let's say I have 2000, I'll give you just comparison, right? 2000 kg of one bag, okay, of one bag. Okay, one bag contains 2000 kg. So I'm considering it, I'm assuming it. Okay, let's say this is what, and I'm assuming it's nothing but it's one proton. What is it? It's one proton. Okay, then what is the electron? It's simply 1 kg of one bag. Okay, 1 kg of this. Okay, of anything. Okay, 1 kg of one bag is one electron. Now you can imagine that how small electron and how big proton is. How small electron and how big proton is. And protons and neutrons are still little bit comparable. Okay. So if I say one neutron and one proton, they are almost comparable. But electron is very small, very small. Like if you compare, you have 2000 kg of something, and you take only 1 kg of particular thing, then you get the one electron, right? So this is how the whole atom is designed. Okay, right? So scientist community tries to find it out that how we can understand the atom. So we know the definition of atom. So atom is like this. We know that the atom is a kind of this thing where in center we have the most important part, which is called nucleus. Okay, and this nucleus is something which contains two things mainly. One is proton and other is neutron. Then what about electron? Do you know what about electrons? So electrons, what do electrons? They do? They revolve around the nucleus. They revolve around the nucleus. Okay, in different shells. Okay. So electrons, what they do? They revolve around the nucleus. Right. So if I give you one more, so let's see. In this first one, where electrons are. So
Revolve.
electrons, yeah, electrons revolve around the nucleus in a fixed path. So this is what it atom. This is what we call it as atom. So every compound or every matter is consists of this atom. So everything is happening inside everything, right? Electrons, protons, they're revolving around it, right? So in actual manner, the mass of electron is very very less, very less. So if you write it in kilograms, it's very very less. I'll write it for you. The mass is almost 9.1 into 10 to power minus 31 kg. Minus 31 kg. It's very small, very small. Can you imagine? It's one upon one after one there are 31 zeros, right? It's so much small, right? And if I talk about the charge of electron, it's again it's negatively charged. It's 1.6 into 10 to power minus 19 coulomb. So these two things are very less, right? And if you compare the mass of proton, this almost 1.7 into 10 to power 28, and this is almost positively charged, the same thing, okay, but with the positive charge, but with the positive, it's 1.6 with the positive charge and 10 to power minus 19. And of course, neutron does not have any charge. Okay, and the mass of proton is almost 1 point or 2 something 10 to power 28. Okay, it's huge, little more, 2000 times more. Okay, so in comparison to it comes out to be 10 to power minus 28, similar to this. But if you notice, this electron is very very small, right? This is the basic understanding of these things. So if I give you one table where you can just compare the mass of these three things, you will get to understand that protons and electrons are almost, let's say, 1 upon 2000 times of each other. Okay, 1 upon 2000, almost. Understood? You understood?
Yes. Yes.
Fine. That's great. Fine. Okay. So in general, you don't need to memorize all these things. These are just to give you a understanding that how small it is. Okay. You don't need to memorize these things. These will come automatically when you go through all these things again. So if I consider the mass of proton is one, right, and then mass of neutron will also be one, but the mass of electron is 1 upon 1840 times. Charge is positive. If I am considering it, then the charge of electron is negative. So they are almost similar. And the charge of neutron is very small, very small. It's zero, almost zero. Right?
Yes.
So this is something which we call as proton, neutron, and electron. Okay. So there are some important thing in chemistry which we know.